Welcome back, everyone, to Merge Conflict, your weekly developer podcast, talking about all things in the world of AI development. Frank Krueger, what's going on, buddy?
I guess I've been vibing, dude. I've just been vibe coding. You introduced me to this new thing called the Spark vibe,
You've been
and I've been
spark
vibing
vibing.
with the sparks.
Vibes with the sparks. Vibe sparking.
I'm not sure I'm completely out of a job just yet. I think my programmer brain still kicks in from time to time, but you had shown me this Spark thing, and I wanted to try it out, and I think I have opinions, James. I think I have opinions now because this is the most apps I've written in a short period in a long time.
So let's break this down really quick for folks in general. So on the pod, we've talked quite a little bit about AI development, agentic development, vibe coding agents, background agents, all this stuff. And one thing that we coined on the podcast a while ago, I don't know if we coined it, but we talked about it, was apps on demand. We kind of talked about, remember we talked about this, I think it was maybe February or March, where I was like, and I think you said, just like you want an app, you dream an app, you ship an app, and you can do it all like in no time at all. Like it's basically apps for yourself or for your team. Like that will be democratized. Like you want something, do something. You don't have to think about it. It'll just like go and whip it up for you. And I think that is pretty close, right? And based on the scale of it. Now, GitHub Spark is similar to other things like V0. That's from Vercel, Lovable. There's other ones. I don't know. Those are the two that I know of.
Just to be the hipster that I always am, I wrote this in LLMs like many years ago. Just like the app generator prompt. Like, here's an idea I have. Make me an app. Make me a web app in particular.
Well, and like also like encoding agent and just like GitHub agent and like VS Code and the agent modes. Like we've been doing this a while, but this is a little bit different. Okay, so because it's more about a platform play, right? Now, GitHub Spark, I'm going to read the features here, which is helps you transform your ideas into full stack intelligent apps and publish with a single click. That's an interesting sentence. From prototype to production in one place, build and iterate your way, natural language, clickable controls, live preview, updates instantly, ship with one click, backed by GitHub authentication access, no setup, no surprises, you're live in just a click. Integrate with familiar tools. You can use GitHub Code Spaces or VS Code with Coding Agent, kind of. Everything stays in sync as you build. Smart apps, it has AI features like chatbots, content generation, smart automation. We'll talk about that. No API keys. That's cool. We'll talk about that. Built on GitHub, ready to scale, blah, 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 blah. Cool. It says, what is it good for? Prototyping, personal apps, SaaS Launchpad, Web Essentials. Every idea starts with a spark, part of GitHub Copilot Pro Plus, $39 a month. Power user, get the most out of Spark. You get unlimited number of apps, development and production, compute, inference, storage, hosting. Frank, okay, so today in the real world, if I'm building Feedback Flow, which I just shipped into prod after a while, that is a whole bunch of code. It's backends, it's front ends, it's CI, it's CD, it's databases, it's things that I set up. I host in Azure. I pay for the hosting, I pay for the backend, I pay for the database, I pay for the inferencing and open Azure OpenAI services, and I have people's data, and I do authentication myself, and that is a real app with hundreds of lines of code that I ship. That I didn't write any of the code, but it's shipped and it's out there into the world. I just added API key support. It's really cool. So that is like how we would vibe an app into production, doing software development using VS Code, Visual Studio, the coding agent, all the things out there today. This is different because I give it a prompt and it builds something. I can see it and I can publish it. And I have databases, authentication, I have AI prompts, I have theming and other stuff to some extent. To some extent. I will say this is a preview. This is in preview, not everyone access to it, but Frank Krueger, special access, Microsoft MVP, Frank Krueger out there. I threw this over there. I'd been playing with it for a while, so I want to get your raw take. And I want to know if you've also played around with those other sort of app building, low code, no code, but there is code solutions.
Thank you for that intro, especially the marketing speak. It's always fun to get through all that. Um, I, I'd like to shorten it quite simply. It's vibe coding plus web hosting. You know, they'll host the web server and a database for you. Cool. Because no one likes writing CI scripts. No one likes doing CI/CD. So especially for one-off quick projects, these kind of development environments are becoming really cool. And that's what I think of them as, is just new development environments. It reminds me a lot of the old Visual Basic days. You
Mm.
know, I used to be able to whip up an app real quick and there would be a GUI and everything would just be working. We didn't have patterns back then. We didn't have coding standards back then. We just wrote the app, just
Yeah.
made it work, you know? And this reminds me a lot of that. It's not perfect in the same way VB wasn't perfect. It was always a little hard to do distribution and all that. Like you were saying, this has authentication. Yeah, it does, but it's GitHub authentication. So as long as all your users have GitHub accounts, then you have authentication. If not, then you gotta painstakingly force the AI to write authentication and all that, and then it's authentication on top of authentication. It's weird, but it does do what they're saying. It's that spark of an idea. It gets you going. Especially because, not to jump too far ahead, but one of my favorite features of it is you're doing all this vibe coding. It's a vibe first UI. I don't even think you're allowed to edit the code or anything like from the main UI. But you can create a GitHub repository then, and then start treating it like a real project, not like a thing stuck in a little development environment. So it's nice that they have that exit hatch for when you are ready to take on hosting yourself or whatever, you want to deploy it somewhere else, whatever. I'm all for these things. The worst part of web development is web hosting,
Yeah.
easily.
It's true.
And this is kind of a win-win because it makes my life easier as a developer. That's one win. The other win is all the cloud providers get all my money because they're getting more hosting and they can sell their services better. So I can totally see why all the big hosts want to do this. And I have used apps like this before. I would say I haven't used Lovable very much. That's obviously one of the most popular ones. I've definitely used the web hosting ones. What I like about this is it's actually trying to tackle data also.
Mm.
So there's a very basic JSON key value store, but you're able to get done most of the things you're trying to get done. It's not SQL, it's not Postgres, it doesn't have advanced queries or anything like that. But if you're just trying to store some JSON objects, you really can't beat this for its simplicity and all that. And so I've used other hosts before, but they didn't tackle the data side. So yeah, James, I gotta say, I am gonna give a lot of negative feedback
Okay.
during this episode because I am a critic at heart. It's what I do. But I want to start by saying something positive, which is I wrote 3 apps in roughly 3 hours,
Wow.
and it's probably more than I could have gotten done in 3 days. I would guess. I'm making up numbers here because it's hard to rewrite history, but if I had finished one of these apps in a day, I'd be like, okay, that's a nice spark of an idea. That's a nice like getting started for this application, or it gives me. It's always nice to get a little bit something on the screen, and then you can think about it, go to bed, think about it, get it done. But in my case, you got something on the screen in like 5 minutes, and you're like, oh darn, now I have to think about it now and keep adding features and all that stuff. So I'm gonna say a bunch of negative stuff, but I want to say start with the positive, which is yeah, man, I built a bunch of apps real quick. That's
Well,
kind of awesome.
let's talk about what you built, actually. I think that's
Yeah.
fascinating before we kind of break down our pros and our cons of it. And again, this is a preview, so it's not
Yeah.
like out
Yeah.
into the
Yeah.
mainstream. So things will change. I'll be, company man over here because I'll talk
Yeah.
about what I built and I'll talk about my pros
Yeah.
and cons as well. Um, so
Okay.
you built some stuff. I built some stuff. Let's talk about what we built first
Yeah.
and how we went about building it, because you and I took different approaches, but then one time I took the exact approach that you took, I think.
Oh, funny. Okay. So I took this as more of like a science experiment kind of thing. I have in my head types of apps. You have your content management systems, your good old CMSs, which we all know is just kind of a CRUD layer. You're just storing some documents and doing something like that. So I was curious, can it do a CMS, James? And then there's this whole other category of apps. I don't know if you've heard of these called games.
Yeah.
And it's a whole different world out there. I mean, in some ways, every app is a CMS, but not every app is a game. So I was curious, how does a game? Does a game? Does a game well? And then the last kind of app I wanted to work on is the kind of app that honestly I like writing, are the kind of apps that I want on computers, which doesn't have a cool, sexy name. I just call them editors. Like there is a complex data set, and I want to go do proper design. A Photoshop would be an editor. Um, Pages, Excel to some degree would be an editor. There's a complicated document model. It's doing some computation. It's doing a little bit of this, but the user is creating something in it. In a CMS, I think about just storing data. In a game, I think about, yeah, you're giving input, but it's also a lot of consumption. With an editor, I think of that as like design software. Like I'm actually trying to create something and do something interesting. So those were the three classes of apps that I wanted to work on, because those are kind of, in my head, that's most apps fall under those categories.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I went about Spark, I sat down and I didn't think about it how you thought about it. I thought about it as there's two cases. There's two buckets. Actually, there was three, but I had three buckets as well. So bucket one was CMS. Big CMS fan.
Can't avoid them.
Love a good data entry, baby. And that one is the pet one that we'll talk about in a little bit. That is pure data entry. Now, another one that I had was I already have an app. So I have an app that exists today.
Yeah.
And I want to say, I'm going to throw you like my PRD, my outline. Here's what this app is. What do you come up with? And like this was, can it build the app that I've taken months to build in Vibe? And I've iterated like a lot and had tons of feature. What can it do in a quick prototype that I could have done like in 5 or 10 minutes? And then also more interesting, what will it do? Because for me, I have this idea, but one of the cool things about Spark is, will it not just like I have an idea and it's going to spark it, but will it in return give me sparks back that I might want to take back to my main application? Mm-hmm. Sure. So I did that, which is already have an app. What are you going to do? What are you going to do, AI? Let's get crazy with it, right? And give us some crazy prompt, you know? And then the third one was at work. I had a problem and I wanted to solve it. And this was just like a simple problem. And I said, I need to do some collection of visual data. And I said, I bet I could use an app for this. So I said, okay, I'm going to time box 30 minutes. Can I have a problem? Can I have Spark build me something that solves it in real time? And that's what I built. So similar there. So what were your approaches for going down the path of like building these different apps? Was it all the same because they're different data types? Like, what did you feed the model? Because when you go to github.com/Spark, now not everyone has access to this. I want to describe what we see, by the way, because I don't know if it is necessarily verbose enough. It says, dream it, see it, ship it, transform ideas, blah, blah, publish a click. And then it just says, create web apps with React and TypeScript to prototype ideas, build tools, and more. And there's a few buttons. It says family calendar, habit tracking app, workout log app. And that's it. And it just says, type into it. Now, that being said, when you go to the GitHub Spark documentation, what is fascinating about that, if I can find it.
No one reads the manual, James. No one reads it.
There's like a great prompt. I don't know if I can't find it here, of course. But there's a really good prompt basically that gives you like, build this thing, build an AI application that does this. It's like maybe 2 paragraphs that you would feed it. How did you go about feeding the Spark?
So I should say I just lied completely to everyone. I've actually done 4 apps. When you first showed me this thing, I tried just one super quick prompt. I don't even remember what I did. It's like, make me an app that does a thing. And what I realized quite quickly is like, sometimes AIs, you give them a short prompt and they'll give you a short answer. Other times you give them a short prompt and you're just leading them into the forest and they are ready to go conquer that forest, and they just start generating code after code after code. So after my first quick experience with this of giving it a pretty broad, unspecified prompt, I knew this time I wanted to come in with a better feature set. So James, I used an AI to generate my prompts to the AI.
Did you use Copilot to generate prompts to then?
No, I use ChatGPT. I just ChatGPT is on a pin tab. I just pop that puppy open.
When you go to github.com
Uh-huh.
/Copilot, you
Okay.
can do the same thing, and you can use
Oh,
tons of
I see.
models. So
Yeah,
it's
I
just
should do that.
there.
Okay,
So
right.
funnily enough, I did take this approach, which was I use an AI to generate a prompt for the AI. So, well, I mean, what prompt
Yeah.
did you generate? Like, how did that
Yeah,
prompting
well,
go?
first I did kind of the meta prompt of, "Hey, buddy, you're gonna help me write a functional spec because I'm old school. This is how I think of these things." And so I didn't want to just say, "Here's a prompt, write me an app that does 2 plus 2." I'm like, I want to give that short prompt, but then I want another thing to refine that into something, and I can decide which parts to keep and which parts to throw away because they
Yeah.
inevitably do a bulleted list of something. And so you can just remove and add bullets as you need. And so I just did a meta prompt. I said, look, I'm going to give you a very vague general app idea. I want you to break it out into a functional spec and write that out into Markdown because eventually I'm going to paste that into another prompt box and have another AI actually generate an app. So we got a little bit meta just to start with here. But I wanted that refinement because I'm doing science here and I wanted to give it guardrails. I wanted it to, here's what I want in the end. And I even advised the first AI, like, make this solvable. I
Yeah.
didn't want to set the second AI up for failure. I didn't want to set Spark up for failure. I wanted to set Spark up for success. And so I wanted to specify the first AI, I'd specify the things that I wasn't thinking of and all of that. So that's actually, I gave you a little notes file of all my initial prompts to these things, and they're all very large and verbose. And I didn't type those; they all have that AI smell to them.
Oh yeah.
And so, but I found that worked actually really well because I love to play 20 questions with an AI. I'm like, what didn't I think about when I gave you this? And ask me any questions you have about where I want this app to go, things I didn't specify that might be a question. We're trying to set Spark up for success. So I gave it pretty, I don't know, these aren't huge prompts. I told it to be concise, but you know what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets of bulleted lists. Each list has 5-ish items in it.
Yeah. Not bad.
Mostly staying at the functional level. I didn't want to be too specific on how to implement it, even though I gave it the hints. This is probably going to be a React TypeScript app because that seems to be what Spark wants to generate.
It's what it is. That's the template.
Yeah.
The template is a React.
Oh,
It's a
is it?
React.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can actually look when you create the GitHub repo. It is based off a template, which is like the Spark template, and it is a
Okay.
React TypeScript app with Vite. Basically, that's what it is.
Okay, so they gave it an initial seed to
That's what
start
it is.
from.
Yep.
Yeah, and honestly, I really liked this approach. This worked out really well. I think it's a little bit annoying to go through, but honestly, it's better than sitting there and typing out the 50 bullet points myself. It's much
Yeah.
easier to delete bullet points and add 1 or 2 here or there to make it into what I want. So I was pretty happy with that. I'm sure I have experience. You can literally put one sentence into that prompt box, and Spark will make you something.
Yes.
But I wanted to give it a few more guardrails on this one.
Every single Spark that I've created, the prompt has gotten longer in general to it. So, and more refined in general. But the first two that I created were kind of a paragraph. I kind of typed in, here's a big thing that I want. And then based off of that, what's kind of nice is once it creates the mock, it'll give you suggestions of other things it would like to recommend. So surprisingly, I just kind of kept clicking. It gives you 3 options. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. It's stuff that would be there. And then additionally, it will create a PRD document for you. So like inside of the repo, it creates a PRD doc
Can we
usually.
define PRD? Because I gotta be honest, that threw me for a loop. In my old school ways, that's called the functional spec. But now, what does PRD stand for? I
It's
kept
a
having to check.
product requirements document. It's a spec.
It's a functional spec, but
It's a
it's
functional
called the
spec.
PRD now. We have to have acronyms. Everyone's in the military all of a sudden. Okay.
PRD. Good old PRD, spec
So
driven
that's what it
development.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I actually have a custom mode inside of GitHub and Copilot and VS Code, which is like PRD mode, which is like planning mode. So it's all
Mhm.
it's doing is just modifying this file and doing deeper research. And I do some other stuff like hook up Perplexity and I hook up other MCP. Like I kind of do this like bigger analysis of I'm
Yeah.
coming up with functional specs. And
Uh,
the nice part about a PRD, even for features, is that you can say, hey, like based off of this repo and the architecture, like come up with features that make sense, blah, 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 and then it would like give you something that's decent. But what's nice is it's usually like purpose, who are the users, problem, core features, and then things that are like MVP, user experience, or out of scope. So I did the same exact thing, and I just kind of removed stuff, and I was like, yes, no, yes, no. You know what I mean? Like, this would be nice, this would not be nice. Like, don't worry about this. And usually a PRD, like you said, doesn't have implementation details. So that's the important part to it too.
Yeah, that was beaten to me when I was first learning functional specs. You don't talk about the technology, just what you want in the end. And I'm pretty sure I keep repeating this every time we talk about vibe coding, but I do love that we're all back to spec writing. Like, it's come back around. The waterfall style of development turned out to be correct.
It's good. It's good too, especially if you're using like the coding agent or you're using something in the background. You're like, okay, let me think about the idea I want and then go do this thing. And in fact, if you're in VS Code and you're like delegating to the coding agent, it'll take your entire context of your chat. So you say, oh, I was chatting and doing something, like, okay, now go off and do some stuff. Okay, let's talk about the 3 things that you built and the 3 things that I built. Go for it, Frank. We'll do one and one, back and forth, back and forth.
Well, okay. I'm going to do the boring CMS one first.
I'll do the boring CMS.
All my apps are kind of like designy editor things, and they all really need online repositories of just, upload your designs, share designs, rank everyone's designs. So I have an app out there called Coca. Everyone go get it. It's a smart text editor that loves math. And forever, I have needed an online gallery of Coca documents so that people can share their documents, or not even share, just keep them private and all that kind of stuff. And so I thought that was a pretty easy one because Coca documents are just markdown. So this was my softball pitch to Spark. I'm like, babe, if you can't make me the CMS, then we're not going to get along at all. So I asked it to make me an online gallery for Coca, where people can just upload documents and such. I went a little bit further than that and asked for like a multi-user authentication system, mostly because this is where Spark's UI could be a little bit improved and the docs could be improved a bit. I didn't fully understand the authentication model of Spark. So I had to generate a whole additional authentication system on top of the GitHub authentication.
So Burke told me that you can just say use GitHub login authentication. It'll just do it. And it has. So there's basically this NPM package, the Spark one, that has like authentication, data, and AI stuff. And it uses like KVM thing. I don't know. It's like using this. I don't know what it is. Magic.
KV. Yeah.
KV. Thank you. KVM. A KV.
I don't know the monitor. You need the monitor.
key value. I don't know what it is.
Sorry, it's keyboard, mouse, video.
So this thing provides you that information. So instead of having login and sign up, which would have an account table and then you have passwords and stuff, you can just say, oh, use the login. Because what happens is when you publish it and you share it, you can say just for myself, for everybody, and then coming soon is organization, which is kind of cool. So when someone goes to the app, it authenticates themselves and they're already logged in because they're logged in with GitHub, right? So it's redundant to have another login system because you're already logged in at the end of the day. So that's
but I'll critique that a tiny bit too. For testing, it's a little bit annoying because when you build CMSs, you need test accounts. You just do. And so I wish GitHub had a system for using test accounts, because especially when you're doing a collaboration thing where some person uploads it, someone else votes on it. I think you have some collaboration features in some of your apps. I think you could have used some test accounts also to check on those.
Interestingly, I believe that Spark looked, and there's a way to detect if you're in development mode. And if you are, then you can use dummy data because it's running it in the live preview in debug mode. But it's like, again, I'm not really sure compared to when it's published. I'm not positive.
I hate fake data. Real data, use the production database during development. That's how I roll.
That's true. That is very true. Yeah. But anyways,
should I rate it? It did great.
I created an account.
So I'll tell you what, the worst part of it was getting it to do the multi-user account system correctly. If I had been thinking and realized I didn't actually need to do that, it got it pretty much on the first run. So I didn't even get to add any of the fun features. Like I wanted tagging, I wanted upvoting, I wanted popular lists, things like that. I have zero doubt it would have done just fine at those, because those are, in the end, pretty trivial things for it to add. And so I would say if you need something to store data, don't write an app. Just go Spark that puppy or Lovable. Use whatever you. But these AIs have CMSs figured out. They are the sweet spot. It seems like, especially in the React world, because I mean, 99% of React apps are just CMSs, so
Yeah.
it works pretty well.
Yeah, so this one's pretty fascinating. I forgot my username and password, so I have no idea how to log in. But you got some tabs. You got login. I can see your account. I saw my account. It seemed to work. It's a functioning website. There's a data store back there. Happen.
Yeah, and that was the funny thing too. Sometimes I noticed it couldn't decide if it should use local storage or if it should actually use that hosted KV system. And it just takes a tiny bit of prodding. In fact, I had one, it was getting frustrated because I asked it to do too much all at once, and it created a mock KV system, key value store, using local storage, because it was freaking out too, and I was freaking out. We were all freaking out together. But I was able to delete that. My only thing with this was like, well, okay, if it's a Calca document, then I have a bunch of C# code that's actually going to do like the formatting, the highlighting, the plotting of all these uploaded documents. And I kept thinking, it's a little frustrating that we are stuck in the React TypeScript world. It'd be nice if, I could just be generating an ASP.NET site, which could just consume my C# code immediately. So I don't think I'd actually be able to use this itself for Calca itself.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that limitation I do, where I have a bunch of C# code I do want to run on the server, you're fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are golden. It knocked it out of the park. Every little feature I asked it to add, it was able to add without any difficulty. And it spun up real quick because it was such a small app.
Oh, nice. Yeah, the one that I spent the most time on was actually a CMS, because I wanted to be pretty fledged out, fully functional. Was this pet insulin tracker. And I started building this on the live stream last week. So the whole concept was, Millie, we have to give her insulin shots twice a day. And we obviously can track it. But there's kind of two things that are interesting. One is, like, if you were dog sitting Millie, it'd be really great for you to have all of her information, for you to be able to log the insulin, see when it is, see when we did it, make sure you know the food, make sure you know everything. And then we could see when you did her shot. Right. You could track it. We could collaborate on it. Mm-hmm. And additionally, the other thing is, often we will shift her schedule. So it's usually 12 hours apart. But sometimes a dog sitter might be like, what works better for me is like 6:30. So we have to kind of like do these 15-minute increments of like vacation mode, like to adjust her schedule. So you have to calculate that. And that's really the point where Heather and I could use it and say, okay, like, yeah, James did 7:45 today, and I'm going to do 8 o'clock, or I'm going to do 7:30, just to make sure it's there, like when the next one is, and it would automatically calculate it. So this app was fascinating. Basically, I needed user authentication. I needed a user table that had owned pets and shared pets, because I wanted to be able to share Millie with you, which means every pet also needed a record, and I would have multiple pets. And then additionally, as a caretaker, you can only do certain things with the pet. And as the owner, I can do certain things with the pet. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then there need to be some share systems. There just need to be some unique code for Millie, for example, that I could share and give you access to it. So this is a relatively complex application.
Yeah, just to compare and contrast, like, I would barely call this a CMS, because it is becoming more of a data tracking app, which is a bit different. It's a logging app. It's a whole nother category, because permissions and all that, like CMS, I don't know. I still think of it as just documents, a SharePoint site, basically. Whereas this is getting a little bit more sophistication. Not just the permissions, because of course SharePoint has those too and everything, but it's almost like you're doing processing. You're not doing processing, but like you're one step away from it, because you're recording good data, and there's interesting things you could do with that data. Like, it could send you a notification if no one logged today's insulin shot. You're like, hey, is someone taking care of this dog? Anyone?
Yeah, it's true.
So yours is a very advanced CMS compared to mine, I would say.
It's pretty good. Yeah. And you can export data, like exports a PDF or CSV. You can do detailed reports of like the month. It has statistics. So this app was fascinating. It was the one that I spent the most time on, light theme, dark theme per user, which is sort of in your account settings as well. And also if you log out, so it's actually interesting. If you go into the settings and then click log out, it actually will bring you to a beautiful landing page. And that's the only way to get to it because you're automatically logged in. So if you refresh, you're logged in automatically, which is hilarious. So what's interesting about this app is I spent a lot of time on it back and forth. And this one was interesting because it seems to want to use that KV like on demand in the React. But what I actually ended up having it do is I said, please put all data and authentication access into a single JavaScript file. So I have a data store.js that does all of the management. So everything uses this data store 100%. And I said, make that really clean. So that helps us diagnose all the issues because everything was getting out of whack. What it wanted to do by default was like, there's one dog, there's one owner. That's all there's ever going to be. And then it got really funky and out of whack. So once I developed this system where there's unique codes and authentication to the stuff, but I actually, funnily enough, spent a lot of time in this application jumping between using Spark, which we'll talk about the experience because it takes some time to rev and do stuff. But then you can open in a code space because there is a code repository. You can open it in VS Code locally, but you can't run it because of the NPM package thing. But you can run it in a code space because it has access to it. And then you can also put it in the repo. And what's fascinating is that Spark and the repo have the same files, but the repo has way more files. Like there's a bunch. There's like, when you open the repo, like when you go into the repo, it has like the .github. It has tons of initialization, security prompts, different like package configs, Tailwind CMS, the theme JSONs, the V config, has like tons of stuff into it. So I had like documentation, this is other stuff. And then it even has files. Like there's a whole components and then UI. When you go into components and UI, there's tons of like default buttons and forms and hover cards. Basically, they've created all these UI components, but they're hidden from you in Spark.
Okay. See, I thought they were just downloading some random JavaScript from a CDN or something. But no, they're actually being reified into your actual repo there. Interesting.
They're in the repo, which means they can override it and do stuff. So I spent a lot of time going back and forth. I use the coding agent to create like pull requests off of it. I use the agent mode inside of code spaces to do tons of refactoring and stuff. And this was fun, frustrating, and fascinating. Triple F on this one because fun because you would see this stuff, it would come to light. Frustrating because the data stuff, the authentication, just like, like getting it to do what I wanted to. And what I found is that what happens is every time Spark does stuff, it does an instant commit.
Yeah.
And then it does stuff and then it commits to the repo. So you can't ever, it's hard to back away. So I found myself going into the code space because what happens is if you have, so I'd have the Spark up on the left on my ultra wide and then the code space on the right. And if you made changes that were uncommitted, it would still preview them in real time because it's looking at the local, I think it's a shared code space or something. I have no idea how it works. It's magic.
Interesting.
But in the code space, you can also open, it does forwarding and everything for you. So you can run the application in multiple modes with Vite. So it's really fascinating. And then you can publish it and obviously publish it out. So I spent a lot of time in the code space. I think I spent quite a lot of, 14 hours, but I think I forgot to shut it down. So pro tip, make sure you shut that puppy down. But I spent a lot of time in that flow with this one and it's pretty full-fledged. I'm pretty happy with it. And you added Millie and there was a bug, but you added her and you could see her and you could log it. So it worked. It worked.
It totally worked. I would say data management, I think, has been the most frustrating thing with Spark. And this is where it comes down to, I don't know exactly who the tool is for. I don't know if it's for experienced devs, inexperienced devs, or someone who wants to truly do no code. Because as a dev, I really wish I could actually get into a mode where I can say, here's the data schema. Don't mess with this. This is not my first rodeo. Here's how I want the data defined. This is the data that goes in the database. This data can be hard coded. This data can go here. Don't mess with this. I need you to build me an app. Let me deal with the data or something like that. I really appreciate like the data hosting and everything. That works really well. I love it when it creates seed data. What I don't like is when it starts creating like 10 different tables that are all roughly the same thing. And you're like, well, what are you using that one for? And that one, it's like, oh yeah, I'll go clean that up. And then it creates a 5th table. And you're like, no, that's not
Don't
cleaner.
do that. Yeah. Then you got to delete all of them one by one.
Yeah. So one of my biggest critiques, I think, it's tough because on one hand they handle data really well. There's that automatic schema generation, all that stuff, it's just happening. And on the other hand, it's probably the most frustrating part of this. And I'm not sure if that's because I am a dev and I know where I want things to be, and I would rather, I want it to like confirm with me every time it's going to add a property to a data record. Like data to me is sacred. It's the most important part of the app. You can mess around with the UI all day long. You can mess around with the logic, but don't mess around with the data. You need some parts of an app development are fast moving. Other parts of app development are slow moving. And it has no concept of fast versus slow modifications at all.
No, it's true. That was definitely the struggle, because as it's modifying code, it's changing the names of the tables and the properties of the tables, and it's doing stuff. And that's when I found like going into code spaces was helpful, because then I could either use ask mode, for example, then you would change stuff and you can review it, or you could add more comments like don't change this data schema or don't do stuff, right? And then it would be there. And and this is using Claude 4 in side of you can go into settings and change 3.7 to 4.0 of it, I think, but defaults to 4 as well, which is fascinating.
But it's tricky. I mean, it's a GitHub product, so I assume they are targeting developers, or at least someone who knows how to do some coding. But at the same time, it seems like everyone's trying to tackle the for lack of a better word, layperson coding problem, which has been tried over the years and years. So it's hard. I think it would be very frustrating if you didn't have a good handle on data on when it does start making mistakes. When everything goes fine, it's fine. It's only when it starts making mistakes that you get driven a little bit nuts. And
right now,
as developers, I want to constrain it.
Yeah, right now it's like automagic, and then I don't want it to be automagic, right? I think I want it to like propose and do stuff, little planning on it. I was having a conversation with my team yesterday on our team call, and we're like, everyone was trying, and I was building stuff, and I was showing off what I built really quick and some other stuff, and everyone's like, well, okay, well, it's just, who is this for, right? And I think it's for everyone, but also that's the struggle, right? Because I could see someone that's like not a coder that's like, I will have this app idea, like go do it, and then it's just like vibing with it, and like they don't want to see the code, and you can never see the code ever. You can just do it.
And in fact, in their main UI, I should stress this, they don't allow you to edit code. As far as I could tell, you could not edit code with the default UI.
You can edit code if it's not revving. If it's not in a turn, you can edit it.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So you can go into code mode, and then you can modify it unless it is actively doing it, and then it freezes everything.
Okay. But it's a little bit funky, because like it'll give you a file list, but if you right click on a file, you can't delete a file. So, there's some UI correct. Stuff just missing.
That is correct. That is 100% correct. It does do that as well. Yeah, it's like, here it is, right? Doom, that's it.
So it's an editor, but only a basic editor.
Correct. Yes. It's very lightweight, I should say. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of read-only happening often. That is 100%.
Fine. It's fine. It's just that question of, but as long as they give you the escape hatches, turn it into a repo, turn it into a code space as a developer, it's good to have those escape hatches. But I think even for the no code world, it needs a little bit more. I don't know what it needs, honestly. This is an unsolved problem we're all dealing with right now.
Oh, it's true. All right, what else did you build? You built 2 other things.
A game, James. We built a game, because anyone can write a CMS, and no one wants to write a CMS. Honestly, I think that's what these kinds of things are best for. Like, who's this for? It's people who know how to code the thing, but don't want to code the thing. Anyway, everyone wants to write a game. So I wanted to see how good is it at writing a game. And it's funny, because like HTML has really evolved as a good game development platform. It's amazing what you can actually do in HTML and the browser and all the libraries out there. Now, sadly, it is constrained to the idiotic React world. Sorry, React developers, it's not idiotic. The limiting React world. And so it has to work within those confines, and I wanted to see what it could do. So the very first functional spec I wrote for it was I wanted A trade game. Aren't I original? I wanted to
Nice.
sail a ship around the world in a beautifully rendered procedural 3D environment with waves splashing me in the face, photorealistic islands. I wanted a fully developed economy. I wanted to be able to upgrade my ship. I wanted to do some piracy. I needed some guns to go shoot other people's ships.
Took
And then
civilization up in here.
yeah, exactly. And then the first AI is like, that's a bit broad. I thought we were trying to set up Spark for success here. And I'm like, all right, I'll tone it down a little bit. So I toned it down to just a 2D game.
Okay.
It's not an infinite map. Nothing's procedurally generated, but it's still a trade game. So you're on a little boat and you can sail around to islands and you can make money by buying stuff for cheap and selling it for expensive. And it doesn't have tariffs, but that would have been next. But I wanted to move on to another project.
I'm buying sweet fine textiles and hardwood, baby. Bye, bye, bye. Bye, bye, bye.
I love all those old space games like Privateer and Elite and all those. Trade Wars was one of my very first favorite games on BBSs. And so I just wanted a game kind of like that. That is well within the wheelhouse of an HTML app, even a React app, and especially with a database-centric app like we're generating here. So once the first AI told me to tone it down, I came up with a pretty short functional spec for a very simple trade game. So there's some islands. You click, your boat sails to a place. You can dock at a harbor. Once you're docked at the port, you can buy and sell, and then you move on to the next port and you can go buy and sell. It's obviously a very basic game, and I won't even say it's fun. Aside from making money is always fun, but it's basic. But like these are. Do you know the game Journey for the PlayStation? Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw a neat GDC talk. It might be up on YouTube. Journey is a really nice 3D game. It's actually a massively it's a multiplayer game in a 3D world. But it started out as the most basic 2D drawings you've ever seen in your life, where they were just working on the game mechanics themselves and kept it nice and simple. And that's what I honestly kept thinking about this. Like, I was curious if I could use Spark to do rapid game mechanics prototyping. So, like, let's toss out the photorealistic 3D rendering and all that. But can I, like, play around and figure out how to make a game fun? Figure out what is fun, what's not fun, what are the features that I absolutely must have, what are the features I can get rid of or wait for later, and all that kind of stuff. So just started making this fun little trade game, and I was happy. I was pretty happy with it. And the V1 that it just kind of spit out from my functional spec, my little boat could travel around 3 little islands. I couldn't figure out how to dock. It wasn't very clear on how to actually dock and do any trading or anything.
I'm trading, baby.
Oh yeah, now you are, because I improved it.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just talking about the V1, like straight out of the box, like the first generation run. And then it got a bit fun where like I was like, okay, well now we need to be able to dock at these ports, and I need to be able to get close enough to it. Like I should have to get close to the port before I can actually dock and start doing some trading. So we got that worked out. It's still not perfect. It's still hard.
It's hard.
It doesn't have good bounds checking for the islands versus allowing you to get close enough to the port itself to the point where you can actually dock with the port. But those are all things you can kind of work your way through. I should say I spent about 50 minutes on that first CMS, and that's what I wanted to spend on this. I want to see where can I get in a little bit at about an hour.
Yeah.
And I got the basic not economy, but the basic trade system working. So you can actually make money in the game. I made $70. I was very happy with myself.
I got over 2,000, man. I got 2,000.
Oh, you're a good gamer. I'm a bad gamer. I like making games. I'm bad at playing. Yeah.
You just bought, you didn't sell. I see.
Well, I was testing too, because like the very first time we weren't initializing the data correctly, so the first trades I made were not a number, NaN. So you always have like those bugs to work through and everything. I would say, yeah, this worked. This was a successful experiment. I'm not sure I want to make the final game in this because it can be a little bit maddening.
Yeah.
With like especially the bounce checking, I was going a little bit insane with because like you want to have polygon hit testing. I needed to generate a world, and so now we got to get into world generate. That's like a whole app by itself, like the map making app.
Yeah.
That's what I should have, like, as an
That'd
editor,
be
I should have
cool.
had the
Yeah.
map making app. Yeah. You
Yeah.
know what they always say about video games? You spend like 90% of your time working on the tools to make the video game,
Yeah.
like the editors and all that kind of stuff. So I probably should have started there. But honestly, I was having fun with this one, especially in the vibing context. Where like, okay, I got trades now. I go maybe now I need some NPCs, maybe some guns next. You know, I
Ah,
kept thinking like, where do I want to go next? Do I want to
yeah.
upgrade my ship? The graphics are atrocious, but I was sticking with the mantra of we're working on gameplay and game mechanics right now.
Yeah.
And those are basic. I don't want to talk this up like it's anything sophisticated, but for 50 minutes of just kind of like, what if we did this? What if we did that? I'm pretty happy. Like, yeah, especially if you just want to work out. Yeah, I think it's good for prototyping like a game. I'm not sure. I think I would go insane trying to make the actual game in it,
Yeah.
but for prototyping the mechanics, I'm pretty happy, man. I enjoyed it really.
Yeah. My favorite part is like, I saw your prompt is like, and like navigate smoothly over to this thing. And like, I see the position, the numbers are updating, but the ship is not updating in real time, which is great.
Oh, yours doesn't update? Mine updates,
It
even I get
moves,
Safari.
but just at the end.
And it moves in a janky way. Mine moves slowly, and then the closer it gets to its target point, it moves faster. I'm like, well, that's
Ah,
backwards.
that's interesting. That's funny. Yeah.
So
Mine
yeah,
just like,
there's lots of like jankiness there, but honestly, that's not the part I cared about.
yeah.
Like, I really wanted to work on the how do you make a trade game fun? You know,
Yeah.
that's that.
And you could have even prototyped this not to even move the ship. You could have just like literally like, clicked on the things and done the thing if you were like really
Mhm.
prototyping and doing stuff. But I was surprised, like, whoa, you built that game. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing that happened. So I thought it was pretty neat. Now I'll say this. I also worked with the canvas. So I did another app very quick. This one was the smallest one. It was under 20 minutes.
Mhm.
And this is the latest one I made. So we're sending out these thank you cards at work. Or these invitations and thank you cards. And one thing that I thought would be really cool is to have like thank you from like the VS Code and GitHub team, right? And with like everybody's signature on it. Like if someone like
Gotcha.
someone gave you like a basketball with the basketball team, they'd all sign it, right?
Gotcha.
Now we're all virtual, so how are you going to collect these signatures, right?
Yeah.
There's a
We've had this
problem.
problem. Remember when we used to give out cards for Patreon
Yep.
people? Yeah.
So I created a digital signature collection tool. And so this allows anyone to create a collection. We created a merge conflict collection and allows you to add signatures to a canvas. So it does a little pop-up, just like if you sign like a DocuSign, you sign it, including touchscreen controls. You save the signature, you can rotate it, you can make it bigger, you can do whatever. And then it has ownership. So I'm the collection owner. So only I can delete anybody's stuff. I can clear everything.
Okay.
I can export the PNG. And then as a user who's joined a collection, you, Frank, you can only add or delete your own signatures, basically, that are on
Okay.
there. So everything is stored in different tables for the collection IDs and a long GUID, so they can't just guess them like collection 1, 2, 3. That would be bad, obviously. Come on. I guess you could brute force this
Security through
somehow.
obscurity, people. Come on now.
Yep. So I said, this. So I built it and it's a thing that works. I sent you the URL, I gave you a share
Yeah.
code, and you added a
Yeah.
signature, not Frank. And then it's definitely is Frank.
You did much better at permissions than I did. Like I just wanted to see it make an app. You were going the whole like multiple levels of users with your app ideas.
Yes.
So I applaud you there. Like I was having a hard enough time with just data and you went all permissions on me. Good job.
It totally works. And you can resize, you can export a PNG with a transparent background and like it works. I don't know if we're going to use it, but I do have a collection with like 5 or 6 signatures in it. So that's working.
And did you really only spend 20 minutes on that one? That's pretty good.
20
Yeah.
minutes.
I mean, you have what I call a box editor where like there's a thing on a canvas and you can stretch the handles on the box.
Yeah.
I have written many of those in my life and I don't ever want to write one ever again. And so it's kind of great that you just kind of got that for free basically.
Yeah, you can hold down. There's mouse controls too and keyboard controls, so you can like move around and you can do big steps and little steps, and then you can also what is it? There's shift arrow, and then there's which one's the rotate? Command Control, and then you can rotate it.
Oh, jeez. I didn't see the rotation. That's pretty good.
If you click on it and then hold down Command, it'll rotate if you go left and right with it. It's pretty great. And then, saves the database. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
I got to say, yeah.
So
I would have spent at least half the day just deciding how to represent the signatures, and this just kind of pooped it out for you.
So I gave it a very short prompt too. So the prompt legitimately was, I need to create a simple web app that enables me to collect digital signatures from team members all in one shared canvas that I can easily export as a PNG with a transparent background, make it easy to sign, undo, save each signature separate on the canvas, and make it so folks can move them around. And then it gave me recommendations, which is enable sizing, resizing with corner handles and add rotation. And then I said, so that was the one prompt. That was about 5 minutes. And I had one, but it was in one shared database, no codes, no anything. So then I said, all right, let's make it so I have a join and create a new collection. We need to create a new data set for each collection, make this unique GUID so it's hard to guess. So it did that. And then I said, make it so only the owner, track the ID of the people, and then that's it. So that was pretty much it. That was like 15 minutes. So it kind of did it. It's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, my game at least is interactive, but like yours is pretty good. Like you're doing pretty good.
Now that
competition, it's not a competition here.
This is purely like app on demand. And funnily enough, I searched the internet and this thing did not exist. I could not find this thing existing.
When you first described it to me, I just assumed you were doing check fraud. So I'm like, why are you collecting people's signatures?
It is a little PII silly, but yes.
All right. Should we race ahead to the last one? The last category? So I wanted to do an editor. And for a good editor, you need a good file format to be editing. And I have a favorite format. It's called URDF, Universal Robotic Definition File Format, something like that. Anyway, it's a way to make robots. And it's a very high level thing, actually. Like, you can give the 3D shape of all the parts of the robot and then how they're joined together through joints. And that way, a lot of simulation engines can take them in. So if you're trying to work on a control algorithm for a robot, it's good to put into a simulation engine so you can work on the control code without having a physical robot breaking your house. Or I'm actually kind of beat up my hands today because I had a robot go out of control today.
Oh, no.
So it's really nice to be able to do all that stuff in simulation. And so I wanted an editor to make robots. And this one, I thought I was pushing it a little bit because URDFs, they're not complicated formats, honestly. There's really two entities, but they're related. And it has to solve a geometry problem in order to you have a finger attached to a hand, attached to an arm, attached to a body, so there's this chain that it has to figure out and understand. And this time I did ask it for a 3D rendering because, my game, I had so much success with the game. I said, this time I actually do want not a 3D editor per se this time, though I would like to get there, but at least a 3D viewer. So as you're editing the data, kind of like the CMS apps, but with the difference that when you're editing the data, now it's rendering it out into 3D and showing you a robot and everything. And I gotta say, it did a bit better than I thought it was going to, because I've solved these equations before, the kinematic chain of a hand attached to an arm attached to a body. And it's not complicated math, but it's math you have to understand. You have to understand the concept of hierarchy. You have to understand these relationships. It has to understand that there is geometry, that it's an editor, so there's a viewer and like inspectors and change the colors of things and rename things. It still fails at renaming a little bit. I would say the biggest downside was, again, data. I had the hardest time teaching it that there can be multiple robots.
Yeah.
It's the same problem we already discussed, where it has a myopic view where it just wants one robot and we're just editing the one robot. I'm like, no, multiple robots. And eventually I'd advance to, obviously, people could share robots and all that kind of stuff. But honestly, it's kind of a URDF editor right now. I don't want to say it's even 80% done, but it's a good chunk. Like, if I worked on this for a few days and walked away with this, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm making great progress.
Yeah.
And this was 1 hour of work.
Crazy.
And so I think I made some really good progress in that 1 hour of work. And it's definitely, I was having a little bit of trouble with the earlier apps where it was putting all the code in one file. It wasn't using
Yeah.
like React components enough,
Yeah.
which in general I'm mostly okay with. But it was even getting absurd to my point where you're just watching it edit the same file over and over. And this time it actually did a good job factoring the code. And I'm sure I could put a prompt in there like, please refactor your code. Come on, man, get some discipline.
Yeah.
But off the bat, it just started doing it correctly. Like there's a different editor for each of the entities out there. And it's funny, it actually did confuse itself with the 3D viewer at first. It kept failing. And it's like, you know what? We're going to strike the 3D viewer for now. Get this puppy working. I was like, I applaud you because, I would have gotten to the same point if I was having trouble just getting the basic app up, just getting the editing part. But then once the editing was working, I was like, all right, babe, time for you to conquer that 3D viewer. And it's like, I'm on it. And it actually got it working. The 3D viewer is not perfect. Like it does a weird wireframe rendering for whatever is the selected object and that kind of stuff.
That.
But,
yeah,
baby steps. And for 1 hour of work, like, yeah, this is, one of my comments was, I do find it a little bit slow, but it's slow in a weird way where like I tell it a thing and then I have to watch it animate text file editing for like 5 minutes. And I find that slow. But in reality, in 1 hour, I built an editor. So there is no universe in which it was actually slow. It just feels slow because I gave it a command and now I have to wait and watch it do everything. It's really weird. It's a weird psychological thing. But I gotta say, I built my editor.
I think what would be neat is like I think you need like a reset to like base because you have the cool robot or whatever. And then I think the other thing would be cool is like to see if you can add AI into it because there is AI prompts. So I'm wondering if you can say like it has the context, like can it like generate stuff for you? Yeah, generate it.
And I can say for sure yes because I've written that app already. I've written URDF generators where you're like, okay, here's a robot, add a sensor to the head, add another limb that picks door locks. I don't know, things like that. Yeah, I think
it's cool.
I think integrating AI into apps, not just using AI to make apps, that's definitely the step 2 we should all be taking as app developers.
Oh, great. So this is a really neat app, and I'll put links to these as well because these aren't like anything proprietary. No. Maybe the pet one I won't, but the other ones I don't know. We'll see. I'll put some to them. The last one I did was the feedback analysis of it, and this was just like, hey, can you do it? And this was the very first one I made, which was like, I have this app. What can it do? That's pretty cool. It actually figured out because I was already logged in with GitHub and you already are. Just like use your GitHub credentials, like pull GitHub, and it was able to do Hacker News, and then also like one other one that doesn't require API keys, which was neat. And yeah, it like pulls down a bunch of comments. It does like sentiment analysis. And what was neat about it is it does like key insights, activity. It did charts and graphs of like the different comments. It like analyzes every single comment for like different categories and whatnot. And this one's fascinating because it's the first one that in like the AI prompt thing, it actually has a prompt and it's a TypeScript prompt. So it's calling some, I assume, Azure OpenAI. But basically it's like based on these platform comments, generate these key insights. And then for comments, like output this stuff, provide specific actionable insights that would be valuable. So it like takes all the data and does something very similar to what Feedback Flow does, but it's doing a bunch of other stuff. So it's actually like analyzing all of this data basically in these TypeScript files. And that's just code that is inside of it, I guess. So what's
you guess? It's funny how you have to guess, but I do applaud. You're the only one that made an AI powered app using the AI. So you did go that next step. So I applaud you there.
I did. It's using real AI and it's using like spark.llm prompt. So that's what it's doing. So it has a prompt, it does a thing, it does a bunch of key insights, it does a bunch of other stuff. So it's doing a bunch of real things. And this one also, you can share the analysis. So I was like, make it so I can store it and then share it. And then it has a code and it does some stuff. The URL sharing is funky because you give it the URL, then it authenticates with the app, but then it strips the URL out. So you have to like actually do it again. So it's quite annoying in that regard. But
yeah, none of these are perfect. We didn't get shippable apps after 1 hour, but you recreated an app you've been working on for a few weeks. Now, it's almost easier because you know the functional set in your head.
Yep.
You're not I find with these Spark things, you're kind of doing design along with development. Whereas in your case, I think you kind of had the design already locked in. So now you were just like crank that puppy out. And yours is pretty full featured for that. Like I love all your categorization and all that. I even had feature requests for you.
Yeah.
But so now you're in the awkward place of, do you keep working on the real app or do you work on the Spark one? I got a feeling you're going to keep working on the real app, but it's got to be a little tempting to stay in the Spark world.
Well, the thing that I'm really fascinated about is like the suggestions. Like, what is it going to think I want to do next?
Yeah. We didn't talk about that enough. And I really wish, especially apps that integrate AI, I think they should always be doing this, of suggesting prompts the user can use next, so they can just click it instead of having to type it in all the time, because it is exhausting typing into a stupid chat box constantly. So I like it just saying like, hey, should we add some pirates to this video game? I'm like, yeah, we should add some pirates to this video game.
Let's do it, because it knows. It's like, let's do it. Or an hour in, did you get to all of your complaints? I think not. Maybe.
No, I feel like I hit the big ones, because a lot of them were just data. I'll just give a critique that it's over obsessed with styling. It really wants to create the cute little whatever version we're up to, and it's just all the HTML it generates is just super styled, and it's just like, come on, like, create some good class names and I'll do the rest with CSS. But honestly, I'll just chalk that one up to modern web development. I think everyone's a little obsessed with, especially with Tailwind. It insists on using Tailwind for everything.
It does. Yeah, so which means that if you don't know that stuff, it's pretty verbose, like I definitely had a hard time. I definitely have a pretty easy time modifying the Azure function and the Blazor code if I need to in the feedback flow application. I have a much harder time doing it inside this application because I don't really know TypeScript or React. I can read it, but the CSS and the stuff, like, oh my gosh,
and it's all inlined. So if you want to change any style, it has to modify 1,000 files for that style, because it doesn't know how to use proper cascading style sheets. Like, it just doesn't get CSS for whatever reason.
And
sorry.
Correct. No, correct. You have this one, which is the phosphor icons don't work, but they do. They do if you open it in a code space and say fix all the icons, because it's always bringing in wrong icons.
Is that what it is? It's just guessing at the wrong icon.
It's guessing at the wrong icon.
You just start to notice. You start to get these question mark icons everywhere, and you're like, "What's up with these question mark icons?"
And it is because I think that the TypeScript gives a warning that thing doesn't exist and not an error, so it doesn't fix the error because it's a warning. I actually, funnily enough, opened one of them in the code space, and then I opened every single file in a code space. So I double clicked every file, and there's 24 errors. So I said, fix all the problems, because it's JavaScript. It doesn't care. It doesn't care.
Well, and you hit the nail on the head there with the errors too. So it seems to have like its own little sandbox environment where it's able to diagnose a lot of these JavaScript errors. But at the same time, it does, and part of this is just UI stuff, it doesn't bubble it up to the user. So a lot of times the thing will be erroring, but not in a crashy way. Like, obviously it'll bubble up crashes and things like that, and it'll tell you there's an error here.
Yeah.
But sometimes it'll also just show you a blank white screen. And it's like, how do you like that? And I'm like, I don't know. It's a blank white screen.
Well, Frank, that is because you need to tell it to implement a global error catch system into this.
It's true. That should really be in the template.
Yeah. And I did that, and then actually helped me diagnose a lot of errors.
Every one of these apps, it ended up generating one of those global error catcher. That should just be
in the template.
Yeah. But overall, I think it's not great at bubbling up errors, especially data errors and things like that. But I think that's a problem with the JavaScript world too, where it's such a permissive language. It elides errors versus catching them, and I'd rather catch those errors.
That's so true.
And then there's always just it's a beta, so it has its own little cute bugs. There was a few of my apps where it just couldn't render the preview anymore. It's like, I give up. So I would actually get into the deploy the app every time and refresh it outside of there. I think I should have gone and used the code spaces the way you were. But just some spurious little errors like that, which are annoying. And they're only annoying because the thing works pretty well. And so when you run into those errors, you're like, oh, I was having fun here. We were going to have pirates, and now I can't have my pirates.
Well, and then what I also didn't realize is there's actually a refresh button, which is to refresh the preview that'll bring you back to it. And because I would get down the road, I was like, oh, now I need to reset it. There's no back button. How do I go back?
So a lot of those are just beta bugs.
Yeah,
I'm sure those will be worked out. I would say from a design point of view, I think they still have to think a little bit harder about data.
data.
Backing up data, development data versus production data, per user data versus shared data. I think the local data versus persistent data, these are important things. And they're treating it a little bit too trivially right now.
It
And
is
I think,
it's because how it works is the inverse of how it should work, which is there should be modes, which is like, let me construct the data schema for you and like let's work together on that,
mhm,
versus what it's doing today, which is like it will figure it out in code, and because it runs your app instantly, data things are instantly created, and that's a problem
yeah,
when it needs to change stuff and you're just revving through ideas. What I actually want to do is say, okay, like here's what a user is. Okay,
yeah,
now create the database, and like I want to define them separately, I think, totally
yeah.
in like a class type of format, and like let it figure it out. I mean, it knows my types. It's TypeScript. It has types,
It
so it
figures it
should
out. Yeah.
be able to do it. But yeah, and so that one it's a hard one, and I'm not sure if like Supabase or something else does a better job of that.
Supabase is just a database. It's nothing special. I think it's a UI thing.
It's
Like,
a UI thing. Yeah.
at some point you have to be able to say, is this shared data? Is this per user data? Is this hot data? Is it slow
Mm,
data?
yeah.
These are fundamental to apps.
Yeah.
This isn't just something you can play around with. So I think data just needs to be taken a little bit more seriously. It's very nice what it does, and I really appreciate the automatic data hosting and all that. It just needs to be taken a little more seriously.
I do want you to try one more thing, not right now during the pod, but there's an assets tab, which allows you to upload
Oh,
images, documents, audio, and video.
good call.
I'm curious for your ship application if you could upload assets to it, like little things, and like let
Yeah,
it do stuff.
yeah,
What's interesting is that it definitely has like, it's like, here's what it gives you, like little recommendations of what you'd upload, like a company logo, a restaurant menu PDF, a
yeah,
confirmation sound, a hero video. It's like, oh, that's interesting. Like, what are they hinting at here?
yeah.
Um, but
Static data in that case. Yeah,
static data.
exactly. Global shared static data.
Mm-hmm.
Because like for a game like this, I probably would have my own map editor and all that, or at least a port list, or at least a continent or island list and things like that. And it shouldn't be representing those in code. That should be a
Yeah.
separate file that I just kind of upload. So I think that, yeah, I absolutely did not take advantage of assets.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm super fascinated to see what people build. I think the other thing that would be neat, I think Lovable has this, which is like share a spark. Like right now, you
Yeah,
can't I can't
right.
like fork your Spark. You
We
know what I
can't
mean?
collab.
We can't
Yeah.
collab. Like I could share my code space with you. So actually, like the VS
Mm,
Code, Daniel and the VS Code team, he was really interested in the signature app. So I added him to the GitHub repo, and then he just like opened an issue and assigned it to Copilot to like implement it. And then I had to deploy it, right? So he can't like
mm.
join my Spark today. So I wonder if that's in the works. That'd be really
Yeah,
fascinating.
gotcha.
Or like what would be neat is like you could take your ship game and say, hey, here's my Spark, and then someone would say, oh, like fork the Spark, right?
Yeah, fork the
That
spark.
that would be neat.
Okay, can we get t-shirts? Fork the spark.
Fork the Spark. So and then they could iterate on it, right? That'd be neat, and it'd be like a
Yeah.
new instance basically of it. I think
Well,
that
especially
social,
since we were both doing this, I really wanted to share my sparks with you. Like,
yeah,
yeah, I was like, I wish you could just dive in and see. I wanted you to see my chat history, like how many times
that
I had to yell at it.
yeah, lots of yelling, lots of like the one thing that it does interesting. And we'll wrap up this pod is like when something does go wrong or like some code goes wrong, it's all like, oh, there's an error, and it's like fix all, and I was like, I guess I'll fix all. Like, did you? It's like
Yeah,
it just shows you an error, and it's like fix everything. All right, fix everything, and it doesn't always fix everything. So you're
no,
like fix everything again.
I
Like,
get
all
a
right,
little nervous.
my
Yeah,
my premium requests, baby, they're eaten up.
yeah.
So, anyways, Spark. Well, I'm glad you experimented with the Spark. We sparked a Spark, and you built cool things. I didn't. I don't know, because, like you said, like who is it for? Is it for us? And I think it does fit into my workflow of like, I have an idea. I want to prototype something out. I want to do something and like let it just go. Like while I'm working on other stuff, I don't want to create a repo. I don't want to do something like, let me just get my idea out of my head, right?
I tell you what, this is for me, but I'm probably gonna use it in the worst way. This is gonna be a replacement for like Excel for me. Like,
Uh, yeah.
why create a spreadsheet when I can now create like an app? that'll have a lot more features, and I can really design it around what I need and tune it over time.
That is, yeah. I want a two-way sync with an Excel, I think. That's what I really want.
Well, yeah. I was using Excel as that's my quick way to create databases, my terrible way to create databases. But these are obviously Excel at creating little databases and visualizers and all that. So I'm definitely going to be using it for that purpose.
We'll do it. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this week's Merge Conflict. Check out the show notes for all the goodies. Frank, thank you for sparking joy on your Sparks.
Thanks for getting me access to it, James. I hope everyone gets access to it soon.
Yeah. Give you a Pro Plus, you can do it, I think.
Okay.
Maybe not everyone. I don't know. Yeah, I think Pro Plus. I think for now at least. But anyways, go get that Pro Plus. Gives you all the premium requests. That's going to do it for this week's Merge Conflict. So until next time, I'm James Montemagno.
And I'm Frank Krueger. Thanks for watching and listening.
Peace.